I want you to be good critical thinkers, just like I want our kids to be good critical thinkers. So there's 3 things that I always talk about. The number one thing, and we've just done it here in Vermont, is we've made an availability source for all kinds of things, but in particular marijuana. We've just opened the door. Now, you might not be concerned about that. That's your choice for you as an adult. But this brain hasn't finished forming. This 3-pound brain that is an adult size is only about 2 pounds, 8 ounces, and it controls everything a kid does. So when you ask your teenager, if anybody here has a teenager, or a grandchild, or a child coming up, why did you do that? They can't tell you a lot of times. And they can't tell you not because they're stupid, but because their brain hasn't connected that far yet. It is up to us as adults to make sure that they're safe. And I often talk about one of the things that we do when our children are little is we put up gates and we put up locks and we put up things in our house to make childproof. Anybody do that with their kids? Childproof. And when they went to visit somebody when they were real little, we checked out the other parents. We made sure that our kids were going to be safe. Well, they have never been in such environments as we're talking about now with the substances that are there. So availability is key, and I tell parents this all the time. If there aren't any substances, kids can't use. It's that simple. So I brought a nice little assortment here. When you come up and get your hand out, please feel free to take whatever you'd like. There's 3 different products. Now I know which one you're probably going to take. Now if you were kids, you'd be taking the gummy bears. And the problem with that is gummy bears are being marketed to kids with THC in them, high concentrates of THC. So I gave these to a bunch of kids the other day, and I said, so how many of you read the package? And they said, well, we trust you. They don't know me from Adam. I just met them. We trust you. You wouldn't give us anything. How do you know? Your best friend's going to give you something. You see, it isn't going to be a drug dealer. It's going to be someone who's going to give them something. And we need to read what's on things because these are coming through, not those personally, by the way, if you take those, but they are eventually going to come through with all kinds of products. We need to know that an adolescent brain is different than ours. Sometimes they are incredibly intelligent and able to think through and get to the consequences, but most time, not necessarily. And then we need to think about critical thinking. What is critical thinking? Well, critical thinking is, my next slide, of course, is the brain. The brain controls everything, and you know, we know so much more than we used to know. When I first got up here and started talking 30 years ago, we didn't know anything. We couldn't do brain scans, we couldn't check to see what was working, we couldn't actually follow drug use, but we can now. We've gone from looking at why people use drugs to looking at the brain to actually identify what's going on in the brain. That's huge, but we still can't stop it. That's even a bigger issue. We can't stop it. So when I think of the brain, and I actually have a handout for you in just a moment, when I think of the brain, I'd like actually a volunteer. Who would like to help me demonstrate a child's or a teenager's brain? Okay, hang on just a second, Cassandra. So, Cassandra, what I'd like you to do is wear my chicken hat. You willing to do that?
Sure, I'll do it.
Okay, before you do that, I'd like to ask some questions from the audience. Who didn't raise their hand? And in fact, if I go to you and ask you to do this, you won't absolutely. You're cringing right now. You're thinking, no way am I wearing that chicken hat. Anybody here got those thoughts? Is anybody wondering why I want Cassandra to put this chicken hat on? Okay, let's talk. What other questions come to mind with this chicken? What's something you're thinking about right here? Thank you. But you're still, okay, so I want you to hear that. So in your head, you're just kind of saying like, you know, like, wow, where's this chicken hat? But I can tell you a 7th grader could care less. But the nurses that I do this with, they're thinking lice. They're thinking lice. So where's it been? Okay, great question. What else? Why? Exactly. Why would this woman come down to Brattleboro, go 2.5 hours, and ask Cassandra or anybody to wear a chicken hat? Good question. These are critical thinking skills. And for those of you that are cringing, it's because the oldest part of your brain's working and saying, no way, I am not getting up and making a fool of myself, or I just don't want to wear the hat. Now, Cassandra, you said you'd be willing to wear this. Would you wear this anywhere? You wouldn't. Where wouldn't you wear it?
I wouldn't wear it where it would potentially ruin my credibility.
Oh, beautiful. So you're probably not going to go out for a job interview. You're probably, and maybe, I always do this next one and I shouldn't, probably not going to go to the president's and sit with the president with his chicken hat on. I will tell you unequivocally that teenagers will tell me they will wear it anywhere, at any time, no matter what. And actually, Cassandra, thank you for volunteering, but I'm not going to ask you to wear it. It's to prove a point. It's the way an adolescent brains work. They're not thinking of where it's been or why I want them to do it or where they're going to wear it. They could care less. That's dangerous. You see, our brain in the very center has the oldest part. It's called the amygdala, and it's no bigger than a nut. And that nut controls our safety. And so today on the way down, and this is a true story, a guy pulls out, and I nearly hit him, and I slam on my brakes, and let me tell you, my amygdala was moving. I was just like, there was a few words that came out of my mouth, and then he pulled over and gave me the finger like it was my fault. My amygdala was working because there was a fear factor. That's what we adults have. We think about things and we think about consequences. Young kids don't.